Hey Dude,
The 90s called.
with Christine Taylor and David Lascher.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Hey Dude, the 90s called. I am one of your co-hosts. I'm Christine, and I'm here with...
I'm David.
Hi, David.
Nice to see you.
Nice
and
to
hear
see you.
you.
How is life?
We're good. You know, we said Hannah's home. Her boyfriend actually is here from Miami.
I love that you're whispering, even though this is going to...
Because they're
lots of people...
They're still sleeping in the other...
Oh.
But he's such a good kid, man. He's like a nice guy, you know, like I'm just so happy that she is interested in guys that are nice and sweet and respectful, you know, not like the bad boy.
Yeah. Yes.
And Casey had his prom. He has graduation coming up on tomorrow. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. A lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then we are going to Austin at the end of next week.
Yes,
already.
ATX Festival. I can't wait.
So, yeah, I mean, that came up so fast. We've been talking about it for a while, but do we even know what we're doing there? I know we have a very good guest that we're interviewing there, which we will not talk about right now.
Yes.
We got to tease that.
I almost said
you just did.
Gender. No, I did. I said, okay. All right.
I mean,
she will be great, but so what? So what? So,
Oh
they
my
know
gosh.
it's a girl. All right. It's a female.
That is absurd. When you
Sorry.
just said she,
Jeez.
and then you
The
said
worst.
and then you just said I almost said her gender, and then you gave it away again.
I'm honestly, don't tell me a secret because I will try and keep it, but I can't.
I'll clock that. I will make a note.
It's
mental
not,
note.
not for bad intentions, but I think there's a panel for the iHeart podcast there, and that's where we reconnected after a number of years, right? The Hey Dude reunion was there.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. They do such a good job there, and it's such a fun city, as you know. Is Casey coming?
No, Casey couldn't get into the orientation that weekend. It was already sold out, so he's going in July. But
nice. Well, I'm bringing Ella as my guest.
Cool.
Not that we were supposed to have guests. She's just free. On that note, which no segue, we just saw in the chat, though, that our guest, Chad Lowe, who we haven't even had a chance to properly talk about before he comes on, is here. So why don't we just invite him in and gush to him?
Well, yeah, we'll intro him to him.
To him.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
What's up, Charles?
Charles.
Sorry.
Charles Lowe.
Charles Lowe.
Is that your real name, Charles?
Hi, you guys. Yes, it's Charles Lowe for you. Just that's really official. You can call me Chad.
I've never heard anyone call you other than Chad.
Oh, because you've never been around me when I get in trouble.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, your mom, Charles. What's your middle name?
Davis. But my daughter actually calls me Charles. My oldest daughter calls me Charles, which is hilarious.
Oh, I love that.
You grew up, or you went to Santa Monica High School with, I mean, not only your bro, but the Sheens Estevez brothers, Sean Penn, Chris, and Robert Downey Jr., and you're obviously still living on the West Side. But what was that like when you were in high school with all those guys, with those ambitious, talented people?
Well, I'm not sure. Not sure a lot of them had a lot of ambition back then. I'm not naming any names, but
they didn't get where they are without that fire. They must have had it.
No, there was always there definitely was always a love of storytelling and movie making, and I believe like it was imparted into the Penns by their father, Leo, who was a director, and their mother, who was an actress. And obviously the Sheens Estevez team family had Martin. And Martin would always, regale us with stories of making Apocalypse Now. And so we were always obsessed with, we'd always ask him questions about certain scenes. We'd go back and watch, we'd watch a clip from, back in those days, you didn't watch a clip. You kind of like put the VCR in. This is the 90s after all. Right. This is even pre-90s here we're talking.
Yeah.
But
you
the
just
Hearts of Darkness,
forward.
Did you ever, I mean, that tells the story of the making. It's almost
that's
as entertaining as the movie.
Yeah, but that wasn't out yet. We didn't have access to Hearts of Darkness yet. what is Francis's wife's name? I wish I remember her name, but
Ellie.
Is it Ellie Coppola, who directed that genius documentary? Rewind. I was born in Dayton, Ohio, and we moved when I was 8 years old from Dayton, Ohio to Colorado. We spent 6 months in a town called Montrose, Colorado. And then we ended up moving out to a place called Point Doom in Malibu, which it is fancy now, but it was not back in the 70s. When we moved there, it was the most inexpensive place for my mother, who was recently divorced from her second husband, to settle with 3 rambunctious kids and have some space. And it was cheaper than moving to a lot of other areas in the Los Angeles kind of county. And she had met a man who was a psychiatrist, of course. And so we settled in Point Doom. And I come to find that my neighbor 4 doors down is a huge Cincinnati Reds fan, like I am and was. And is also, his father is from Dayton, Ohio, and that is the Sheens. So Martin, as it turns out, is from Dayton, Ohio. And Charlie is a baseball player and loves nothing but the Cincinnati Reds. And so we bonded immediately. And that's kind of how we...
so cool. And going from Ohio to Malibu, I mean, on paper, that looks like a great move for you guys.
Well, you got the mountains for 6 months too, right? You got, no.
Have you ever been to Montrose?
No, I just hear Colorado.
Oh, you didn't live in Aspen?
This was not Vail, Aspen.
Denverish?
Ish. No, it's more like Grand Junction-ish. It's it's a lovely town. I'm not going to disparage Montrose, but it's not Telluride. It's not Aspen. It's it's a very dusty, high plain, flat kind of farming town, a ranching town, if you will. But
okay.
Yeah, so if you go to Telluride, or you usually will fly into Montrose and get out of there as quickly as you can. That's so mean. I shouldn't say that.
That's all right.
We love Colorado, but ending up in Malibu for your high school years seems like ideal. It's like a dream.
It was. It ended up being that. I did not like it immediately, when I first got there, because it was so different. I mean, it was culture shock, and it really was culture shock for coming from this kind of suburban...
everywhere.
Well, and yes, actually, Spicoli, the great role Sean Penn played in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, was based on a guy that we all grew up with.
No way.
Absolutely.
Yes, I read this. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And we always suspected it. When we watched the film, there were just too many characteristics and mannerisms and sayings, and just the draw and the kind of the way he talks. It's like, it's like that. We're like, that's Bud. I'm not going to say his last name, but I'll let Sean divulge it if he wants to. But it was clear. Let me just tell you that I went from Dayton, Ohio, which was in a suburban kind of setting with, the manicured grass and, like it's Ohio, to Malibu in the 70s with everybody looked and acted like Jeff Spicoli.
Right.
Did you all get into acting like at the same time? You and all your brother and your friends, or did it happen like one at a time?
No, so we literally, this little triangle of like, we moved in next to the Sheens, who lived next to the Penns, all on Point Doom.
The Lowe's, the Sheens, and the Penns in a triangle.
And it was, Rob, I got to give it up to Rob. He wanted to be an actor kind of from the day he was born. He was kind of born to be an actor. In Dayton, Ohio, he was doing community theater and public access, kids shows, and anything he could get his hands on. So our move was very fortuitous for him to California, and to think that we ended up in this community of people who were in show business, it was just, I've often thought, like, how the hell did we end up there? I'm not really sure, because it had nothing to do with show business or acting or movie making, nothing. It was really...
Wow. Your mom wasn't like, we're moving to LA so you guys can... No.
God, no. She
amazing coincidence then, or fortuitous luck.
Yes. Yeah. Meant to be, right? Just one of
somehow,
those.
Yeah, in the stars. Yeah,
yeah.
But she had environmental allergies very early, before many people were even aware that could be a thing. But she was aware that, the air quality was making her sick, and that it was, I think she probably felt a little crazy back in the day, and people treated her as such. And now, of course, we come to learn that, yes, you can get sick from bad air and, chemicals.
It's all
leaching.
real. It's all real. Yes.
So we moved there because the air quality.
Yep. Clean beach air. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who started acting first? Yeah, I guess Rob, since he was already interested in it.
Yeah, Rob. Well, it was interesting because Rob started acting, I think, when he was about 13 or 14 professionally. And it was, just to show you how anti-stage our mom was. He had said, look, I want to be an actor. I'm going to try to do this professionally. And my mom said, okay, fine. You want to do that? Find an agent and get yourself to auditions. So he would take the bus into Hollywood as a 13-year-old and go in for these commercial auditions and take a Polaroid back in the day, sign your name, and off you went back to Malibu.
That is dedication. I mean, and such tough love. Your mom is like, okay, if you want to do it, you're putting in the work. I'm not dropping my life.
It's so much better, though, than the stage mom who's like, we got 3 auditions today. Get yourself ready and dress you. If your mom was like, you guys want this, you go get it. That's the best.
Well, then when he booked us, he booked his first job. He needed a chaperone because he was a minor. Right. He needed someone who could drive him there and be his chaperone. And my mom interviewed 2 people to be the chaperone, because she certainly wasn't driving to the set every day.
Right.
And
she's got things to do.
She was got 2 other kids to raise. I mean, that's the challenge. So she met with this one guy who ended up, Clark Shattuck, his name, great name, ended up winning the job over another guy named Sean Penn, who had met to be Rob's to drive.
Oh my God, that's a crazy story. No. Sean Penn interviewed with your mom to be Rob's chaperone on a set.
That's the legend. I'm 99.9% sure it's true. Although I'd have to ask Sean, if he probably doesn't remember that anyway. My mom's not around anymore.
If he had ended up with that job and the 2 of them showed up on the set and Sean's like, yeah, I'm his guardian. I'm in charge of this kid. Oh, that would have been classic.
I know, it would have been really, it's just would have been too much. So, Charlie and I'm trying to think. So Sean obviously was starting to act, and I think was interested, obviously. And I don't know Sean all that well. He was always this mythological older, brother that was around. I knew Chris quite well. And then there was Sean and there was Chris, and there was also Michael Penn, who was
the musician. Yes. So talented.
Yeah. Who's married to Amy Mann.
Oh, wow.
I know. I think people never put that together.
Oh, I did.
I didn't. No, Amy. Yeah. I know. I feel like that's
not Amy. I knew Michael Penn was a Penn brother.
Right.
So he talk about the 90s. I mean, geez, Michael Penn was like, he was like massive, but he was always in his room playing music. So I never saw Michael. But Charlie and I and Chris, we were not all that interested in being actors. And certainly I think Charlie and I were going to play professional baseball. That was the dream. And so I remember then Rob and Emilio would hang out and talk about the auditions they had and what the jobs they were going to do. And Charlie and I would, be in his room and we'd be like, I can't believe those guys are actors. We're not going to be actors. It's such a stupid thing. Like, we're going to be baseball players.
Right.
I know, it's so soft. Yeah. Like, we were going to show them and be professional baseball players. And I'll never forget one day, we were sitting there and Charlie goes, you know what? I'm thinking I might want to be an actor. And little did he know, I had also been looking into getting an agent and auditioning as well.
Very quietly, discreetly.
Yeah. Discreetly. And I was like, you know what? I'm thinking about it too. You know, like, I don't know. Like, I think I might want to be an actor, but not like they're doing it.
Right.
So I was going to do it my way, which was, you know, Charlie's dad, Martin, had talked to me about acting. And this is a long story and I will not go into the detail, but it involves him driving me to meet Charlie at a David Bowie concert at Anaheim Stadium, because Martin was going to meet with David to talk about doing something together. And I was just a David Bowie fan, and Charlie said, have my dad's going to drive you there. So from Point Dume to Anaheim Stadium, where the show was, is about a 4.5 hour drive in traffic. I got maybe 1 or 2 words in, and Martin regaled me with stories about the public theater in New York City and what it means to be an actor, and how, you know, you're a student of life and you're an observer of life, and it's a beautiful way to live. And this is the guy I've seen in Apocalypse Now, like one of my favorite movies, one of my heroes. And I'm like, okay. And he turns to me and goes, you're an actor.
Wow. That's a good way to start a career, with one of the greatest telling you that you should do this.
Martin Sheen tells you you're an actor, you're probably an actor.
Oh my gosh. Were you, I mean, for that car ride, was the entire car ride, were you in the car just saying to yourself, like, this is the greatest moment for me? Or did he overtalk you?
4.5 hours.
Well, I mean, look, I adore and love Martin, but he'd be the first, to admit that he always says, I'm just a windbag. He just is, he just like will not stop talking and telling stories, which is great. But I think as a 14-year-old, I was probably like, this is really weird. My friend's dad I'm stuck in the car with him. You know, like, when you're like a kid and like a parent would give you a ride and it was like, one of your friend's parents, it was awkward. Yeah, totally. Like, what do we talk about? Like, this is so weird. But
it seems like he took that pressure off of you. You didn't have to worry about how to converse.
And gave you the stamp of approval to go into acting.
He certainly did.
I mean, you know, when you're on a set or you're with, or you're lucky enough to hear a more experienced, older actor, or even person in general, give you stories. I've always been, I knew that was like good stuff. You know, those were like gems. Martin Sheen, you must have known, like, Martin's seen it all, and I'm sitting here getting the benefit of it.
Well, it also kind of helped my trajectory, because what I couldn't kind of come to terms with was following in an older brother's footsteps. Like, that's age old. Yep. Yeah. Like, how can I do this my way? You know, how can I like distinguish myself? And so I think from that conversation with Martin, I was like, you know what, I'll let him be the teen idol. You know, I'll let him be like the 16 magazine pinup boy. I'm going to be the serious actor.
Right.
I'm going to New York and I'm going to study at play at the public theater. And so I did. And when I was, I think 19, I moved to New York. I've been back and forth to New York on so many different occasions in my life, where I've lived for a while and I've come back to LA. But I went there specifically to study with an acting coach there, and, you know, be a serious New York actor, and do theater. And, you know, I did a couple off-Broadway plays, and then I went broke, as one does. And I thought, you know what? It's a lot sunnier and nicer in Los Angeles. I can go home for a sandwich if I need to, and get my laundry done. I don't have to go to the, laundrette down the street. There's I don't need air conditioning, although my air conditioning had broken in the summer in New York. And I remember thinking, this is it. I gotta go back to LA. So I went back and forth quite a bit, trying to be the serious, quote unquote, actor.
And how old were you at this point? Were you 18? Were you like, early
19, 20,
19, 20, like 19, just out of high school and, figuring it out.
And not going to college, which is interesting, because I do, people always say, like, I don't regret anything. I have a couple of regrets in my life, and one of them is not going to college. But I was just in such a hurry to grow up. And I mean, you take the SATs, right? You take the SATs. My grades weren't great. I was never really applying myself. and my SATs were horrendous. And I'm like hanging out at the Sheens, like smoking pot and trying to pick up girls like to come to the pool. Like it's like, and reading scripts that my brother and Emilio are like offers for like a lot of money to go do these movies. I'm like, I don't know. Do I want to go back and study the SATs to try and get my scores up and then go to college? Or do I want to live like this?
It's enticing. It's hard to motivate out of that. But you know what? I think everybody should live in New York at one time in their life when they're young. It's just good for your soul. It gives you this motivation, and especially studying acting with the teacher you wanted to, doing theater. I mean, that's a great way to start and get out of, the Stonerville in Malibu for a little bit.
Yeah, out of isolation, out of
and then you go back when you're
that bubble.
And so, Christine, when you grow up, you can move out of New York.
Exactly. I know. I was going to say,
she did her time here. She did it.
I did my time in LA, but I did it the opposite. Like, I'm experiencing New York now. Our kids are experiencing New York in that, young person's way. But I lived in LA through those years. I moved to LA when I was 19 until I was 40.
Right.
Yeah, because I was an East Coast girl. I was like, that's the place to be. And, David and I both, why we are doing this podcast is we did a kids show for Nickelodeon together called Hey Dude. And neither of us ended up going to college after that show because we were like, well, let's try LA. Let's go to, David, we started to get work here and there after the show, and college ended up, we kept,
so we're all, none of us have gone to college?
Yes.
We're
all in the same club.
Do you regret that?
I mean, at the time I didn't. I feel like now as I'm, I now have a daughter in her third year in college and a son who's looking.
Wait, you have a daughter in college?
Yes, she's 21. Yes.
What?
David does too.
Wait, you either have the best filter ever invented, or you're
we're
lying.
All getting blinder. No, we're all getting. I'm old enough to have a 21-year-old. Believe me.
Holy moly! Okay, all right, David. She says so.
I'm well covered in that
she
department.
does. But I think we had. I think Christine and I both had gotten into NYU, and we deferred for several years. I was going to go to the Tisch school, but then it was like I can learn while I'm doing this professionally, or I could go take 4 years off. But NYU is, I got to say, my son who's a senior in high school right now, I think NYU was the most sought after school from all his high school. I mean, California kids want to go to New York.
Yes,
they're like fascinated.
The Cali kids do want to be in the city. It's true.
So
my 14-year-old wants to go. She already has it planned out. She actually, for Christmas, she said, I want an NYU sweatshirt. That was one of the things. She's already got it planned out. She's going to NYU. And, here's the thing about regret, I think, is, I'm able now to impart some of that wisdom, the hard-earned wisdom, on my children. And I'm not forcing them. It's not like you will go to college, but it's more like, look, here's a mistake I made in my life, I feel, which was I was in a real hurry to grow up. And I wished in hindsight I had taken time to at least explore going to college. So it's definitely very much in the forefront of our conversations with her, but she's only 14, but still she's starting to get into it.
No, it's coming. Yeah. It's coming
it'll
up.
Be here before we know it.
Yep.
So, and she wants to, and she wants to act, and she has an agent.
I know. I've got two. The 21-year-old is just finished her third year at Juilliard and is already
Juilliard.
Yeah,
good. How do you like that?
I have to give a little but she's also that person who's like one giant foot out the door there, and is like, if anything comes along, and I'm like, you're so close now. You're so close. You have like basically next year. Why not? This is the period of time
to graduate from Juilliard?
To graduate, yeah. But she's said it since day one. I mean, she started in the pandemic. There were, it was not like she was. There were auditions or anything. But she's just starting the self-tapes, all of it. The new world of what we're in.
But she's at Juilliard.
I know.
Yeah, she's got to finish.
Ben and we can't believe it, and we are so proud. And she did it all on her own. And I've never seen somebody have so many monologues coming out of their mouth, for these auditions. You had to have like 4 contemporary, 3 Shakespeare, pre-1920. But like she had this repertoire that she just really wanted it. She wanted it from a very young age.
Well, that is very impressive. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It's amazing when your kids surprisingly impress you, right, with their work and their talent. And she gets herself into Juilliard. We've all, it's the best thing in life.
Amazing.
Chad, so let's go back. So it seems like you did a movie with Charlie Sheen. So a TV movie called Silence of the Heart.
Yeah, that was...
Am I jumping too far? But you guys decide, we don't want to play baseball. We're maybe going to do this. And you end up in a movie together.
It was that easy, right?
Yeah, it was just like that. Yeah, exactly.
You manifested it together.
Dude, I want to act. Let's do a TV movie.
Let's just do it. There were a lot of, auditions and a lot of, not getting the parts before we got to that place. And I was working as had a job after school to make money once I, could start to drive when I was I driving then? No, I just wanted money. So I had a little job after school at a pharmacy, and kind of like cleaning up and boxing thing and putting price tags on all the items. And so I had that job after school, but I was also auditioning, and I got a couple of things after a while of auditioning. And then a few years later, so we already have both established that we're going to act. And, I remember going in, I feel like I went into the audition and he was sitting there amongst all the other actors. And, back in the day, they'd pair you up, right? Because it was to play best friends.
Of course.
They'd pair you up. And I remember they were like, and it was Steve Tisch, the owner of the Giants now. Yep. A Super Bowl winner and an Oscar-winning producer. He was producing. It was Tisch Avnet Company, who is I'm not sure if they had done Risky Business yet or not, but prolific producers. So it was it was a prestigious movie of the week. In fact, I often hear people talk about how impactful it was because it was about teenage suicide.
Whoa.
And
wow.
It was heavy. And so we went in and read together, and I think it was like, I remember looking at Steve Tisch kind of like shaking his head like this, like, you guys are best friends in real life. Like we're not going to
beat this. We're not going to beat this chemistry.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, we did that together, and that, that was a few years ago. It was probably 1984, I think.
Yeah, 1984 is what my notes say, but.
Good. My memory's not getting that old. There, I still got a little bit of memory left.
Well, you know how old you were at the time, but I mean, it's just so cool that you had this community of friends and a brother who were all. It's just like seems like a magical time. And then you and Rob did. Our producers just came on and told us that you did Oxford Blues, like a small part of that.
Oh. Where is that producer? I'm going to find them. There, that's
Lorraine, right up there.
Lorraine,
that's not real. That's not real.
No, she's a sleuth. She found it. It's true.
No, well done, Lorraine.
Nice job, Lorraine. Yes, no, I just started acting and was, like, I'm going to be an actor, and I hadn't really done anything yet, I think. And Rob had done this movie. Called Oxford Blues, and they had shot it over in England and then come back, and I think the director, as the story goes, was going to showed the film to the studio, and they were upset that there was a scene missing that I think the director felt he didn't need, and he said, oh no, we shot that scene. I'll just cut it in and show it to you. But apparently they hadn't shot the scene, so I got to call on a Friday night. Can you play your brother's, can you be in this movie? I don't even remember what the role was, but it was like I helped him get into Oxford I was like a computer nerd or something. And I mean, it was like happened at the guy's house over the week. It was so the most professional, strange acting job ever. I had no idea what I was doing.
It was a secret, and it was.
Yeah, it was like,
but it's with your bro. It's with your bro. It's like so cool.
Yeah, so we that was actually the first time that we had ever worked together, and then obviously, I mean, not obviously, but we actually acted together recently on his show Lone Star, on 911 Lone Star. We had never really acted together, and not because we didn't want to, or you kind of seek that out, but the opportunity never arose. So I got a call from the creator of 911 Lone Star, Tim Minear, and he said, I have a crazy idea. Are you still acting? And I was like, like when they'll let me, of course I'm still acting.
Exactly.
It's just not often, but yes. And I had been directing on Lone Star. I've been directing for a while now, but so he said, do you want to play your brother's brother? It's so random. And
I feel like you're right for it. You might be perfect.
Yeah. You know what? So, I think my first instinct was I said, well, what does Rob think? Like, of course I do that, but does he know? And he said, don't call him yet. Don't let him know. I'm going to call him now and pitch it to him. So clearly I got approved to play Rob's brother by Rob.
By Rob.
By your brother. Oh God. If you got a call back saying, it's not going to work, your next call would be.
It starts the family fight. The family, it breaks down.
Yeah. I need to see him read for it. He needs to come in. I need to do a chemistry read.
See if you guys work well together.
Just to mess with you, he should have done it.
No, totally. So we did that, and that was actually really, it was incredible to have that opportunity. And that was, I want to say that was last season, and then this season, Tim called and said, I think I'm going to give your character a terminal illness. And I was like, really? Do you really have to do that? Because I'm enjoying acting. And I feel like there's more story to tell.
That's
here.
like a good news. You're coming back to the show. Bad news is you're going to die.
We're killing you.
Yes, basically. So this is not a spoiler or anything. I mean, if you're watching Lone Star and you're waiting to binge it, then plug your ears. But it just aired. The finale for this season just aired, and my character has died. So I won't be acting on Lone Star with Rob anytime soon. I don't think, unless there's a flashback. It could always be a flashback.
No, but it's great.
That's
what
true.
A great experience. But talk about playing characters with, illness. Let's talk about Life Goes On, because that was early 90s. Christine and I both, I had to read my notes to remember that I had done a small part on there. And Christine,
wait, you were on Life Goes On?
We both did separate episodes.
One episode, but Christine worked with you.
You were in the scene that I was in. And I said you were not going to remember it because it was like my first job.
Maybe he will. Maybe he will.
You may remember the scene, because I remember the scene.
Oh my God.
And it was an acting class.
You're like, you don't remember we had that whole makeout scene? You don't remember I was your girlfriend? I'm like,
oh, you'd remember that.
Oh, I remember that. No, I would remember that for sure.
It was an acting class. And by the way, got the job because I had become friendly with Kelly Martin at a Nickelodeon event that a teen Nickelodeon event. So Kelly asked myself and Lindsay Price, who we both came on to do this group scene. It was an acting class where we're all throwing a ball to each other, doing an acting exercise. And Kelly got her friends the gig. We didn't have to audition. I was, I think, 19 years old. I think it was one of my first jobs after maybe Blossom, David, and then Life Goes On. I got to work with you, and I remember being so excited, and I loved it. It was so cool.
Wow.
I was such a fan of the show, and I was just loved it. And you were wonderful.
Yeah,
you were
it was a great
you were generous
show.
and sweet, and you were so nice to all of us.
Really?
And that's my memory. Yeah.
Okay. Good. That's good to hear.
Well, it could have been acting, but it worked.
No. I was You know how it is. We're always so like, I don't know about everybody, but I certainly am always so insecure. Especially then. I had so many insecurities, and I was always feeling like they were going to come and remove my SAG card at any minute, and I'd be.
We
found
talk about
out.
that. I was the same way every day.
So I'm glad to hear that I at least had the presence of mind. I wasn't so self-involved, that I was actually able to acknowledge there were other people there. Because usually I was always so in my own head. So wait, David, what did you do? We didn't make out, right?
You definitely remember that.
You would remember that. Yeah.
I would remember that. No, it was like, when I moved to LA, I just did a bunch of these guest spots, Roseanne and Life Goes On and Full House. You make the rounds of these shows. It must have been like a one scene thing with Kelly, because we've been friends since way back then. But your character, I mean, that show was filled with talent. I mean, from Patti LuPone, Bill, right, who played the dad. I mean, just incredibly talented writers, and they give you this character. And at the time, right, the early 90s, HIV was a big freaking deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember seeing that on a network TV show before then, but tell us that experience, because you end up winning an Emmy Award for playing a character living with HIV in the early 90s.
Yeah. And as you guys both know, it's like we're only as good as the material that we get, right? I mean, we can try to elevate it as much as we can, but I was so fortunate to have, as you mentioned, so many talented writers and a story that was so important to the entire writing staff and the creator, Michael Braverman, of the show. And so I had the good fortune of being cast in that role. And, I'm not trying to be too self-deprecating, but it does take great writing, and it does take, directors who are committed and actors who are committed, and doing something that's really important and we knew was important, and something that had not been done, as you mentioned, which was having a series regular on a show who was living with HIV as opposed to dying of AIDS.
Right. Well, because Magic
and a young kid. Were not it wasn't an older person. It was it was you. I don't know how old you were playing, but you were young.
High school.
High school. That's what I thought.
Oh,
so it was you were a high schooler.
How did your character get HIV? Through a transfusion or something?
Well, that was, they kept it vague. They always kept it vague. And I think mainly because one of the blessings of Life Goes On's time slot, which was a curse, was we were opposite 60 Minutes, which was the juggernaut at the time. That was always number
Sunday
one.
Night, yeah.
Sunday night, like appointment television, and it was like number one every week.
By the way, I think that's also the Ben Stiller show for the season it was on was also in that time
opposite
slot.
Was it? Oh my God!
So you beat them as well, because they were always dead last.
But Ben's audience was not going to ever watch 60
Minutes. The Life Goes On audience, but
also
but still.
like Ben Stiller's like on that time slot. That somehow doesn't. There was a miss there, big time. But yeah, so we were opposite 60 Minutes, and they kind of left us alone. And I've learned this, later as I've been still friends with some of the writers, and some of the directors and the producers. But they basically left the show alone, because they were like, look, you're the respectable ratings, you've got a loyal fan base. And so kind of do what you want. And the writers had met with a young man who had HIV and was living with HIV. And so they based the character off this young man. And so in fact, there was a story that they were pitching this idea to the network, and the network at first was like, nah, this sounds a little heavy. And there was this impassioned speech from the writers about why this was so important and why we needed to show this and to help educate and let people know, look, it's not a death sentence, and that people are living with this. And so, yeah, I mean, it was very profound to be a part of something that had such a big social kind of impact, if you will. And what's amazing about it now is Kelly and I, it all comes back to Kelly Martin. Kelly and I have been
the sweetest.
Yes, she's the best. So Kelly and I have remained friends. And about 4 years ago, I was doing a guest spot on her Haley Dean Mysteries for Hallmark that she did. And so we had never worked together again. And so she called me and said, do you want to come up and do this guest spot? I said, yes, absolutely. And while we were doing it, we both kind of sat down and said, we've got to figure out a way to get Life Goes On rebooted. Because it's, we live in the day and age of rebooting shows. And I said to her, look, if any show should be rebooted, it's Life Goes On, because Life Goes On was so brave, unflinching, looked at the hard issues and subjects. I mean, it was a show that was based around living with a family living with a son who had Down syndrome.
Right. Which has only become more prevalent today. I mean, now everyone knows kids who are dealing with that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we're also, we're also, I think culturally and socially, we're just realizing how important representation is, and people being able to see themselves, represented on in the media and in the shows that they watch and the movies that they watch. And so I said, I think I've got a way back into Life Goes On. And so Kelly and I sat down together and met over a few weeks, and we came up with a pitch for rebooting Life Goes On.
Amazing.
And long story short, we sold it to NBC.
Right.
And
nice.
We have a writer, and N.K. Carroll. Her name is N.K. Carroll, and she is created All American on the CW, and a new show called Found, which will be on NBC this fall, which is great, about missing and exploited people of color, basically, who aren't getting the attention that they need when they're missing. And it's a really profound show, beautifully acted, really well executed. And it's on NBC, I think 10 o'clock. I don't know which night though, but it's coming out. Found, look for it. And so she is the writer of Life Goes On, N.K. Carroll. And so we are waiting while this writer strike happens for NBC to let us know what their plans are for it. And, we're obviously very hopeful that it will at least get picked up and we'll get to make a pilot of it.
Did she finish writing the pilot, or she
did?
She's finished. So that's good news.
Yeah. So the pilot is done. This has been almost 4 years in the making.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure.
We know.
You guys know.
Did you talk to? Did you guys did you go to the rest of the cast and see who might be interested, or did you guys just say we're going to do this and then see?
I think it was a combination of things. It was really just. The genesis of it was, people always say, if you're going to pitch something or you're going to write something, it's like, why this, why now, and why me, or why us? Mm-hmm. So we kind of answered those questions and then came up with a structure for what Becca Thatcher, what her life would look like today. And Chris Burke, who played Corky, is doing really well and is available, and we
amazing.
Can't wait.
Fantastic.
What a call for him to get, just even the opportunity to maybe go back and play that character.
And he's just such an incredible spirit. And so, we're hopefully optimistic, but also we're realists about, the business and how tough this business can be. And so, we all have our fingers crossed. I keep saying to Kelly, trust the process, because it's been almost 4 years, but we're in a very good place right now. And we'll see what the future holds for it.
Wow, that's terrific.
Just to go into your 90s, creds, Melrose Place, a whole character arc on that. What was that like? Because that show was pretty much right in the center of the zeitgeist, right, in the 90s.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was a lot of big hair and makeup and
good looking people though.
Yes, exactly. That was interesting, to go from a show like Life Goes On, where you're really, you're that you're making a difference. That you're telling a very important story and socially making, educating. And it's just, that's the best. That's why I think a lot of
There's
us,
nothing better, better, right?
And when you're telling stories and that they're having a really positive effect. To me, doing Melrose Place was about entertainment. It's like, let's not take ourselves too seriously, because at the end of the day, really what we're doing is we're giving people escapism, and we're,
and that's meaningful as well.
Yeah.
To give people an hour just to tune out their whatever they're worrying about and just enjoy the fun of Melrose Place. That's important as well.
No, absolutely. And I always remind myself that, sometimes it's like, look, if that's what I can, because, I have friends like we all do, who some are doctors and some are heart surgeons, some are teachers,
right?
Real people doing real things, making real differences in life, right?
Yeah, they're not wearing makeup and wardrobe.
Yeah, and they're not being compensated up, really. I mean, especially I think of the teachers who I, just value so much, and like they're not getting the credit, they're not getting the covers of the magazines, they're not getting paid, and it's like here I am, putting on makeup, as you say, and having wardrobe, and somebody's choosing for me what to wear, and show up and get a coffee and a donut, and then say some lines and get paid really, really well for it, and I'm like, but there is value. There is value in that, like you said, we give them, give people 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, half hour of escape, of laughter, of entertainment. And that's valuable. Look, I don't think it's as valuable as like being an ER doctor or, heart surgeon or a teacher, but still there is value to what we do. There's value.
That's a good segue. Speaking of ER, what was, I mean, you did a nice arc on that show as well, the year later. What an amazing show that was. That was so impactful.
That was, and I was so nervous doing that. And that show was famous, obviously, as you guys know, for these oneers, we call them.
Exactly.
Big
coming in on the through the door and through the ER, and you felt it.
Did either of you do any
No.
ER?
No, but I whenever I was working on the Warner Brothers lot, I think I did some Veronica closets and stuff like that. And the ER guys were right next door, and so it was like an exciting time to be on the Warner Brothers lot. And ER and Friends were there, right? Friends. It was like the epicenter of the hottest shows, and so it must have been amazing to be thrust into that universe.
And then you had George Clooney with the basketball, playing, basketball outside of his trailer on the lot. Yeah. So when I got this, it's interesting because I went in and auditioned for this role, and I just thought the dialogue was so hard to remember because it was all this technical jargon. Right. And I almost had like a nervous breakdown going in. I just almost didn't go in to read for it. And finally, I went in, I read for it, and lo and behold, I got the part. And then, of course, my first day was the end. I was at the end. My character walked in at the end of one of those 2 or 3 minute Steadicam oneers, and like I'll never forget like being.
Oh my God! So if you mess up, the
whole thing is blown.
Yeah, oh my God!
Back to one they go, and it's like so. And like you mentioned, there was an energy on that lot, and to be on that stage, and that was the hottest show of at the time, and I'm sitting there like in the wings waiting to make my entrance, and they're starting way the heck at the very back of the soundstage, and I can hear them getting ready to start the scene. They're like, all right, everybody, quiet down, and okay, rolling, and George Clooney, at the top of his lungs, yells, "Hey, Lowe!" Which was a gift.
Oh, thank God.
He recognized.
He knew,
the panic that was building, right?
And that I was a guest, and as a guest star, I mean, it sounds like we've all been guest stars on a lot of shows. Being a guest star is no easy feat because you go in, everybody's a family and loosey-goosey, and you're so nervous and scared and trying to do your best, and God forbid you forget a line. And he just kind of put me at ease with that because I felt like he's recognizing the pressure I'm under as a guest star at the end of this 2-minute walk and talk with all this technical jargon that if, like you said, if I mess this up, we're all going back.
100 people are going to have to do it all over.
Oh, I mean, he diffused it.
So many people say that about Clooney. That he's just like, he's so lighthearted on set, as talented as he is, but.
Before we leave the 90s work, we need to discuss Highway to Hell.
Oh.
Because.
What was that?
That was Ben Stiller's first part in a movie.
No way.
I think he said I wanted to get information. By the way, Lorraine, our super sleuth, did not pick up on the fact that Ben was in the Highway to Hell.
Wow.
But I texted him to say, do you have any good Highway to Hell stories? And he just said best, like the most fun, because it was like his first, it was a TV movie, right?
It was.
Yes. And he had so much, he just said Biltmore Hotel. And he just has these memories of, it was on not that long ago. We caught some of it with, yes.
Wait, that was, That was his first?
Yes. Wait,
No.
what year is... What
91,
year
it says here.
91. 90. Maybe first TV... Well, 91... No, because he did do... That's not true. It's not his first movie. Maybe TV movie. TV movies might have been what he meant. TV movie.
Or maybe you filmed it in 90, it came out in 91.
No, because he had done 80s work. He'd done Fresh
he'd done
Horses and, Stella and those...
Stella.
little... He did
Simple Jack.
Simple Jack.
Simple Jack way back when.
He wasn't Ben Stiller at that point.
He must have meant TV. His TV movie. Yes.
Oh, I adore him.
Oh man. No, he sends his love.
Send love right back to him.
Yes.
Yeah. No. And he and his, his sister and his parents were in Highway to Hell. It was
the whole family. It was the whole family, and they played crazy. I remember his parents played crazy characters towards the end of the movie. I think, right? They all do. That was the craziest movie ever. And, I'll tell you that there's so many crazy stories about that, but this movie was written by a writer named Brian Helgeland, who went on to win the Oscar for L.A. Confidential.
Oh,
so
wow.
What?
Yeah. So his next movie is L.A. Confidential. And if you look it up, Brian Helgeland will say the worst experience and the worst experience of his career and the worst movie he's ever made is Highway to Hell. Now, I don't blame Brian. Exactly. The script was great. With one of those scripts, it's one of those things where you get the job, right? And you show up and everybody after you got the offer, you're going out you're at the gym, you're out and people are like, dude, I heard you got that role, man. Congratulations, man. I wanted that so bad. Like, I felt like this was the beginning of my movie career. It's like, oh, this is gonna launch me, this movie. And there's a producer who I won't mention her name, who I think single-handedly ruined the movie. First and foremost was hiring the director, who barely spoke English. God bless him. But when you're trying to do a movie that's tricky tonally, and you hire somebody who isn't perhaps, English isn't really their first language. Like, I'm not sure they really understood tonally what the movie was. A great guy named Atta de Jong, Dutch, I want to say, great. Loved working with him. Had done some really great movies. He did Drop Dead Fred. And if you look him up, he did a bunch of really good movies. I just don't think this was the right movie for him. I don't think he was the right director for this movie. And then I'll never forget. So it was Christy Swanson and me starring in this. I mean, we play this couple, right? That she gets abducted by the devil, and I have to go back to hell to get her back and make a deal with the devil. And and it was really, actually sounds stupid, but it was actually really cleverly written. It's Brian Helgeland. And so I'll never forget them saying in the negotiation, saying, they're not going to give you more than third bill. And I was like, wait, what? And they're like, you're going to get, it's starring blah, 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 Chad Lowe, Christy Swanson. And I'm like, well, that seems really weird. I'm in every frame of the movie, and Christy is too. Like, where's Christy? Like, well, Christy's going to get fourth bill. I was like, I'm sorry, who's first and who's second bill? And they're like, well, they don't know yet. But they're
you're taking third billing behind two people that
room,
yeah.
Essentially.
They're leaving room as a bargaining chip for one was the rumor was that the producer was friends with Mick Jagger. So Mick Jagger was going to be in the movie. What role he was going to play, I have no idea.
Oh, but you got to concede top billing to Mick Jagger. I don't care if he's walking in the background, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But that would be a little weird if you're like a Mick Jagger film and he's like in the background. Like, where was Mick?
He walks by one scene, right?
Was he in the movie? So anyway, long story short, I remember saying like, well, I'm not going to pass on this movie over billing. It's who cares, right? Like the work's the work. And so she ended up. There was what was the actor's name? He was a really good actor. He had just been in the movie with Julia Roberts, and I'm having a senior moment. I'll have to forget it. He's an Irish actor. Anyway, he gets top billing, which is great. He plays the devil. He's great. And then one of this producer's clients, who she's also a manager,
Oh boy.
get second billing. And we're like, okay, he's in like 4 frames. What is happening? So it was like,
gosh.
It was one of those things where it just went downhill from there. The special effects weren't as special, as they should be.
Very gently put. Yes, exactly.
The money was not, let me just tell you, the money was not on screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if somebody's going to do that with the billing, I'm just wondering what they did with the budget. And so it's a bit of a disappointment. Not a bit, it was a huge disappointment at the time, because I was like, I thought this was my kind of calling card to, like movie stardom.
Yeah.
But I got to work with Ben.
Exactly.
And the whole Stiller family.
I know, exactly.
The whole
and
Stiller
Ben
family.
still has this like softness around that movie. Like I swear to you, it came on, I want to say like sometime last year, where he's like, kids, come on, come and watch this. Come and watch this. And, out of context, when you're watching like the last 15 minutes of the movie, and it really was the end, and the kids are like, what is this movie that we've never heard of? And I quickly hit record. I think we still have it on the DVR.
I think he plays like a short order cook or something like that in some diner in hell. This is really
exactly.
crazy.
Oh my God.
Play-Doh or something. Yeah. It's
so
like
when your kids say, I don't think this holds up, Ben could say, no, it didn't work back then.
It does, exactly. Now
it never held
works.
But I think, I've gotten some things on Instagram and Twitter where people are like, it's kind of a cult classic in a weird way.
Right.
It was the first time I ever worked with CGI elements. And the guy who did the CGI is a guy named Randy Cook, who went and moved to New Zealand. And the next time I saw him, he was accepting the Academy Award for Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
so
wow.
They had a lot of good, and that's what I'm telling you. There was
the screenwriter from LA Confidential, this is a talented group.
Yeah. And
everybody has to start somewhere. Is that the moral of the story?
Ben Stiller, Chad Lowe.
There's another way to look at this, which is maybe I ruined the movie. I'm not sure.
No. There's not
if you
not
had top billing, you would have shown up very differently.
Exactly.
Right?
When it wasn't a success, I'm like, hey, that's not my movie.
Exactly.
I'm fourth billed in this thing. I'm not even in it.
Oh, man.
It happens for a reason. You played John Denver in the John Denver story? Yeah, I mean, I can see, like, honestly, you look like a young John Denver, but I mean, that guy was amazing. What was that like?
Again, this is all leading to why I direct now, because I want to be more involved. I can't put myself, we put ourselves out there, right? I mean, it's so hard to put yourself out there in something and see others not kind of step up.
Right. Putting it in someone else's hands, and then it gets you don't get to then see it again until it comes out, right? Or until you go in to do some record, it's out of your control.
Yeah, you're in control. You have you're a cog in a huge machine.
And I think that's why, like, sometimes people think that actors are quote unquote can be difficult. But, really, once you've said yes to something, you don't have the most power you have is saying no to a job. Like, right. That's the most power you have. Yep, so when you say yes to something, you kind of say yes to everything. And you can suggest and you can try to help, elevate things. But at the end of the day, you're not hiring the art director or the director or the people that are really
the editor, any of it, right?
Exactly. And you're not getting final cut and blah, blah, blah. So with that, I knew I was in trouble. Not that it wasn't fine. It was fine. But I knew I was in trouble when I went to go get, my eyes are kind of green blue. You can see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I needed to get John Denver's eyes are brown. Oh. So I took it upon myself to go get brown contact lenses. And the director said, what is this on the schedule? You're going to an optometrist. What is this? And I was like, well, I'm going to get fitted for brown contact lenses because John's eyes are brown and mine are this color. And he's like, oh God, why are you doing that? Nobody cares. They just want to hear the music.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would know. That would be a red flag.
Oh.
a director doing a biopic who's not concerned about the accuracy of
Well, you just wanted to hear people just want to hear the music, and the other was the wigs situation, which took a little bit of putting my foot down and saying like, no, like this is not going to fly on my head.
Right.
I'm not wearing this like
it was not a well-made wig. It was, they did not put, you know the difference between a gorgeous, well-made wig and
and apparently
and a mop.
You've seen it in movies.
Top.
You see it when it works, and you're like, "That was beautiful." And when it doesn't, it takes you completely out of the character in the movie.
And it's expensive. I think you have to commit to really spending the money on it.
Yes.
And so the producers were great and really, really supportive and great. And it was fine. At the end of the day, it was fine. Again, I just think I had higher aspirations for it.
Did you sing for it? Did you do the vocals and play guitar?
No.
You don't have. Okay, you don't have to say.
Thing. Yeah.
And those are big shoes to fill, right? Because I mean,
yeah. But I tell you what, I came away with was, John Denver was a really complicated guy, and he was complicated and extremely gifted. Like I tried to learn some of his chord progressions for what he plays, and everybody's like, look, it looks easy and it sounds simple, but this guy was like a virtuoso on the guitar. And I don't know if you guys ever got to work with him. Did you guys ever work with John Denver?
No, just a fan of his music.
Yeah. Apparently people who knew him would say because he did some acting, you need like the John Denver special and all this. He would sit in the steps of his trailers with his guitar and just basically take requests and play whatever people wanted to hear. And he was he was a more complicated, that was always my challenge with that, is he was a much more complicated guy than I think that they wanted to portray. Because I think it was a bit of a vanity piece. They wanted to show, play his music and
the best parts of his life.
Yeah, but Kristen Davis was in it. She was great. We had a good time working together. She played Annie, and she was great to work with and really good in it. But I just think there was a lot more complexity there that we could have explored. I think in this day and age, we might be able to do that.
Right.
But I think back in the 90s, it was more like, let's show a movie about John Denver.
It's so true. People wouldn't probably accept a fluffy version of someone's biopic. They'd be called out immediately. Like his eyes aren't brown and they don't show the darker side, but that's the difference between the 90s and now, right? I mean, things were just feel good in the 90s.
Yeah, there definitely was, but you could see it was all leading to this moment. It was all leading.
The build, the slow build.
What a great way to finish with an ode to the 90s and the feel good decade. But dude, thank you so much for being here with us. What a great quick hour that went by fast.
Yes, this flew by. It was such a treat to have you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You guys, I am so happy I got to do this. And I have a confession, Christine, which is it dawned on me as you were talking that we've met a couple of times. And I was like, as you were talking, I was like, we met. And then I put the connection together, how we met and where we met. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. Of course we met.
Yeah, we met. We did meet when we did that scene together.
But we met through Carrie.
He doesn't remember.
Yes, but the event in
with Carrie.
Exactly.
And a number of different events.
Ben and I came in Culver City. I remember it. I mean, I remember the event exactly. Yes. And we had such a lovely conversation with you and your wife and hung out. It was a great
comeback
thing to be a part of. So we love you. We are, Ben was so excited. He's like, you got Chad? I
did not realize that you guys had kids that age.
Yes.
I just didn't realize. I just was like blowing my mind.
We're getting
old,
blows
dude. Our minds too. Well, you're getting close. I mean, you're 14 to me. It's like you said, is a blink, and then it's 18, and then it's
but I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, so I'm still on the other end of the scale there. It's like,
it keeps you young.
It does, right? It definitely keeps you young and keeps things in perspective. The best kind of perspective.
The best.
Oh, totally. Well, good luck with the Life Goes On reboot.
Yes.
That is very exciting. And good luck with all the directing. I mean, you really have reinvented yourself and kept a career with amazing longevity. And we're just huge fans and so happy to have you here.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
keep on acting. Keep on acting.
Yeah.
from your lips to God's
Exactly.
ears, as they say. I mean,
Every
you know
few
how it
years,
is.
that phone will ring. It will
By the
ring.
way,
I know.
None of us ever stop acting.
Right, exactly. It's a silly
we
question.
go back to the conversation that I had with Martin Sheen, which is acting is about the way you live your life. It's about observing character. It's about having an open heart. And it's really, truly, and not to sound pretentious, but he sold me on the life of an actor. And it's been the greatest life I could have ever imagined. And it has paid dividends well beyond my college degree I didn't get.
See, exactly.
So true. You
no
appreciate,
regrets.
yeah.
Even if there's a little regret, no big regrets, right? That's
Yes.
amazing.
All right, thank you,
Take
Chad.
care. Tell Ben I said hi. And
I
good
will.
to see you guys.
I will. So much love.
See you around.
What a sweet guy.
So sweet. And those stories of moving to Point Doom. I mean, those stories are sort of circulated around how the epic, when Rob and Emilio got the Outsiders, and there's a lot of behind the scenes footage of them all. But
yeah, I read Rob's autobiography.
Same.
Did you read that? Yeah, it was great.
The best. I mean, the best. It's like I devoured it. But
talk about a group in a time, in a place.
Yeah.
It's special. That's like.
And to hear Chad's version of it and his decision and like being in his big brother's shadow, and any younger sibling knows what that feels like, whether it's a big older brother or sister. But that story to me of that Martin Sheen car ride.
Amazing. A 4-hour car ride with him, just inspiring him to become an actor.
And to have that guy say, you're an actor. You're an actor. I mean, that was pretty amazing.
That could change the trajectory of one's life.
Yeah.
Which it did. And look, he said it was the greatest car ride and pep talk he ever got. And he doesn't regret a thing.
Yeah. And I love he just, has been in the business for decades, as we have been, and he just still loves to work. Like he said, when he got the call of, I like to act when people ask me to.
Yeah, you still act. I never stopped, but.
I know. I get that. I've gotten that a lot, like having kids and you're not working, but it's sort of like, hey, I thought you retired. I was like, no, I just did another part of my life.
If you go have kids or you go and direct something or you go host a podcast, people are like, oh, maybe they don't act anymore. Now.
They're just. So anyway, we're David and I. That's our reminder to the world. We're still acting.
Yeah, we still do it. We still got the chops.
We're multi-hyphenates. We're actors / podcast hosts. David / director.
////. Hyphenate.
Come back next week. We've got another great guest. We're not going to say he, she, who,
I won't give anything away, but
and then we are off to Austin. Yes,
yeah.
So we will. We've got a couple of great guests lined up, and we can't wait to have you all come back.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Christine, so great to see you again.
Good to see you.
And I can't wait to see you in person in like
we get some in-person time.
All right, sweetie. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe and give us 5 stars.
And please follow us on Instagram at HeyDude, the 90s Called. See you next time.